Wicked problems have been, oh my gosh, so much a part of our life. They are everywhere. And in the building industry, I'm sure many of you are very aware that the housing market has been a little nuts these past few years. And part of that is because of some of the wicked problems. We've had labor shortages, we've had supply chain issues, we've had land shortages in many parts of the country. And this one of labor shortage has been one that has been of very considerable interest to so many people, myself and my guest co-host for the day included. So we decided we needed to do something about it.
Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat, and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, work, and play. Join your host, Marla Esser-Close, the Green Home Coach, to learn how everyday green homes work for you, your family, and your community.
Hey, y'all, it's Marla, the Green Home Coach, and I have a brand new voice for y'all today. This is Will Blake. Will is from Vesta Foundation Solutions here in Oklahoma City, and we've worked together on a number of projects now.
Yeah, sometimes reluctantly, but we get through it, don't we? Hey,
That's a good way to look at it, right? So you've become a very lovely partner in crime. I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah, it's not a crime until you get caught, right?
Is that what it is?
But no, yeah, we've had a lot of great endeavors that just sort of fabricated from the ether, so to speak, things that did not exist. And all of a sudden now they do. And we turned around and figured out, oh yeah, we kind of do know a little bit about, or maybe we just fooled everybody into thinking we knew what we were talking about, right?
Yep. So what we're talking about is workforce development, and particularly in the building industry and the skilled trades. And if you have been watching this or tried to hire a plumber lately, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because it may take you weeks or months to find a plumber that can actually come out there unless it's an emergency and you're willing to pay double time. Well, then imagine all of this in the new built and the remodeling industry and how it's cascading. And everybody looks, and every member of my family says, why is it so hard for me to find a plumber or a heating technician or an electrician? And it's because there's not enough people in the trades, especially the licensed trades, which those are.
Yeah, they're hurting tremendously.
They are. So what's happened is we're graying out these trades. So literally the people that have been trained and have been the backbone of this industry are retiring.
Yep, they're aging out massively.
And why isn't there something behind them? Why aren't there people behind them to catch this as they're graying, as they're retiring and choosing to move on with their lives?
Well, and it's funny to think of this concept. And first off, Marla, thank you for having me.
Of course.
I'm told often that I have a face for radio, and now I'm here on video and in audio, so to help prove many people right. Okay. So, but yeah, it's so interesting because I think the topic at hand, first off, we have our own construction company specializing in an unlicensed trade, and we still find the same issues that everybody else is having with not only supplies, rising costs, and a shrinking workforce. And the big issue here is I find that most people that you and I have dialogue with fit into three categories. The largest category on one end of the spectrum is, well, nobody wants to work.
Yeah.
That's not really a productive conversation. Right. It's more of just, I guess, vitriol on social media. But then you have the others that are trying to identify workplace equality, inequalities, not only in issues with safety, but generational inequalities. For
diversity.
Yeah, inclusion. Yeah. And then there's this voice in the middle that says, and it's the smaller group, it's like, well, that's great, but what are we going to do about it?
Right. And there's a lot of gnashing of teeth right now.
And I think that's why you and I got along well, because we fit in that middle. And, the fact is I think at the birth of our problem is we've got tons of problems, but you're right. By 2025, we have nearly 20% of our workforce aging out.
Crazy.
Many of which that are taking with them all the knowledge of
not just knowledge, but wisdom.
Yes. And that spans from just the hard skills of what the service is. That it also means the operational knowledge, the vendor relationships, all sorts of things that come with it. And then we have nearly 12% coming back in to replace that, but that's going to be spread across all industries. And then not to mention, you combat this baby boom that we were really hoping for after COVID that forced a lot of people into scarcity, made us realize, oh, we didn't get the population increase that we were hoping for. So the problem now that we're discussing is actually a more difficult problem 15 years from now.
Right, because we just don't have as many people.
Yeah, and then you combine that with closing of borders, slowing down the movement of migrant workers into our country. This is just, it's a compounding effect, and it's adding a lot of white noise, as I like to say, to the conversation when we're back to that middle group that's saying, hey, what are we going to do about it?
Right, and it took a long time for us to get to this point.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, just having a conversation with my dad, actually, it's like, how did we get here? And it's like, well, after the recession, so many businesses went out of business and they didn't come back in.
Yeah.
And he was rather astonished to hear that we have not yet returned to building as many homes as we did before the recession back in 08 and 09. And we haven't. And so, and part of that is enough people to build them, enough trades to work on them. There's a whole bunch of other factors that come into that we'll kind of let sleeping dogs lie for the moment.
Yeah.
But this whole issue, this wicked problem with having enough labor, I mean, we cannot export building and repairing homes and buildings. It kind of is relying on place. So we have to have people in that place. And a lot of people are like, well, isn't technology going to help? You know, everybody looks to technology to get us out of our problems. And yes, it can help some. And, you know, there's all kinds of new housing solutions being addressed and all kinds of modular housing and ways to do more in factories where we know more people have a bigger effect. That's still not going to solve feet on the ground.
Yeah.
Hands on the work.
Well, and when you talk about the technology aspect, obviously you and I have gotten to know some pretty unique vendors and partners that are taking on this technology side, but there's still so many missing pieces to that it solves less than 10% of our problem. Yeah. There's only so many robots that can work in either commercial or residential application, never really a retrofit application. Yeah. And then also you have the issues of whether or not the business owner can even afford that technology to begin with.
And many in the building industry and the trades are small business owners themselves.
Oh, yeah. And it is frustrating to think, you know, out of all of the industries, we hear this, pardon the statistic, we hear that, you know, 50% of businesses go out of business in the first 5 years. But in construction, it's actually 75%. So it's even worse in construction.
Wow. I didn't know it was that high.
And so you get this turnover of businesses because it is a difficult business in itself. But when you compound that with, well, we've got to hire people, we've got to expand, we've got customers to fix, then that's another bigger issue. Maybe another topic for
wicked problems.
You know, only one depressing issue today, not 10. But right. But, you know, in our company, it's funny, I guess we go back to the purpose. And this is one of the reasons that I think today we'll talk about some of our new ventures that we're really excited about is we look at our purpose is trying to, at our company, and just for full disclosure, we do foundation repair and concrete lifting, and we do wood floor system repair under dirt crawl spaces and drainage. So not the flashiest business in the world.
And in full disclosure, I'm a client.
Yeah.
You guys did really good work.
Yeah. Well, thank you. As I slipped the $20 bill over to Marla out of the screen, but you know, we are a necessity to a lot of customers.
Yep.
And we tie our purpose back to something, interestingly enough, not to get too intellectual in the conversation. So in 1982, this professor wrote a theory, and if any of your listeners have heard of the broken window theory, you know, it's this concept that when you go into a community and you notice that the infrastructure is not well kept and you see damage, as simple as a broken window, whether you want to or not, your mind is wired to instinctively assume that property and community is not maintained.
Yep.
So naturally, the neighbors and other residents of that community are less likely to upkeep their properties. And it starts as little as, say, not mowing their yard or littering. And then it eventually progresses into larger problems that lead to, say, for example, distribution of drugs, to it's okay to steal that Amazon package off the porch. And then, as you can imagine, that starts to increase in an even worse direction. And then you start to see this dynamic change where it gets to more violent crime. And you see the total breakdown of the infrastructure and the community as a whole, because we're just not upkeeping our properties. And
pebble in the pond.
Yeah, the ripple effects get larger.
Yep.
And while this was, of course, a theory written all the way back in 1982, we knew so much about the world in 1982, right? But this was actually put to the test in numerous case studies. I love reading case studies about this because it's tied to our purpose as a company. Is the 1990s, New York City was known to be the most violent city in the world at that point. Yeah. The murder rate per capita was, astronomical. And this professor and the chief of police actually put a task force together, and their number one job was to just paint subway cars and clean up the subway system. And for many that know a little bit about this history, the subways were the epicenter for all of their issues, but also the center of all of their infrastructure, and a place that most of the residents would be around. So they would paint these subway cars, send them out en route. They'd come back covered in graffiti, and they just have to do it over again. And over the course of 8 months, what they did is they were able to finally make the turn. And then the crime rates dropped within the next 4 to 6 months to levels not seen since the 1960s. Wow. And it's all about caring for our infrastructure. So back to this problem, if we don't have people that can make repairs to even the basic needs that our homes and businesses have, it really falls into two categories. It falls into, it won't be done, and I'll have to DIY it, which we know sometimes DIY cannot do. It can do okay, but then also
I'm learning.
It gets so expensive that it's actually out of reach for most Americans with our income class structure.
And then it cascades until it breaks.
Yeah. The problems with this of our degrading infrastructure not only affect those people in their homes, but the tax burden, the school system, everything. So
there's a whole ancillary topic we can get into on another podcast about the infrastructure, and a group I follow about how we need to be putting more money into maintaining our infrastructure before we're building new infrastructure.
Yeah.
So similar concept. We won't run down that rabbit hole today.
Yeah, but that's our purpose at our company, and why our efforts, whether or not they don't directly help our company, are meant to indirectly help the industry
and society.
So we can fix this problem that's on the horizon. And we thought we were doing pretty good until all of a sudden we had these issues with, well, as we've discussed, staffing, supply chain issues and stuff like that. So, but that's where I think it's a great dovetail, where back to these three groups, the what are we going to do about it group. And that's why I was glad I met you, Marla.
Thank you.
Because, well, you were already actually doing something.
I am a doer.
And, well, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Oh, please.
So I
can be prepared for the thunder.
Oh, yeah, there we go. So, this is no longer Marla. This is Superwoman.
So for those of you that are just listening, I'm very proud of my pink hard hat.
Yep.
Because it was an award from the Society of Women Engineers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But the better part is that it matches my pink Build My Future shirt.
Well, which, by the way, it's funny because I think that's the first time I actually met you was through a few meetings, but then to Build My Future. And then one thing I've learned about Marla is anytime she creates some swag or some type of promotional product, it is always some very outgoing fluorescent color.
Well, they're safety colors.
I know. And you can see her from a mile away, but also
I'm only 5 foot tall. I need help.
That's right. But so a group of us were trying to put together, we went back to the problem and said, what is the problem? And the fact is I think we talked about this, the message for getting into the construction trades has been skewed dramatically.
Not lost in a lot of places.
And a little bit more about this with your relationship with the school system, but children are not encouraged to explore careers in the trades, because I was even told this, like by my father, who was a general contractor, you don't need to do what I do. You need to go to college and get a job that gives you a better lifestyle. And
there has been I believe, misdirected, not respect, but this kind of putting up on a pedestal the people that have a college degree, even if many of those people are working in jobs that really aren't paying them well enough to maintain the standard of living that they want to. And then we have all these other jobs that are considered more blue collar jobs, but actually take a lot of brains and physicality. And these jobs are going empty in many, many parts, or way down, and they pay very well. Many people in the industry have making, especially if they own their own business, are making way more than some of their college counterparts. And it depends. There's not one solution for all of this. October is Careers in Construction Month, when National Association of Home Builder members and state and local home builder associations participate in a national campaign to raise public awareness about the great jobs available in home building and related trade professions. There are a ton of resources available at nahb.org. Just search Careers in Construction Month to find the toolkit, days that are special days for you to accentuate, and to learn more about how to share the great opportunities in our building industry with others in your community. So I'm through the National Association of Home Builders and Professional Women in Building, which, as you know, I've done a lot with over the years. I had a longstanding conversation with a lady that was on the staff in the Home Builders Association of Missouri. And somehow in this conversation, she started talking about this event they did called Build My Future. And I was like, I want to hear more. And this was right around the time when I was moving back to Oklahoma City from St. Louis. And so I got the rundown on it. And when I actually moved here, we got our Professional Women in Building going again because it had been dormant. And I approached our very small but mighty group and I said, hey, I heard about this amazing project. What do you think if this was our signature project? God bless those women. They all said, let's do it.
Well, and you developed that really, you had some resources, but you practically did it from scratch.
Well, fortunately, this group in Springfield, Missouri, has been so wonderful about sharing all of their resources, all of their forms, all of their processes. And there's now somewhere between 25 and 30 Build My Futures across the country, mainly in the Midwest and the Southeast. But that's been a tremendous growth. We've helped so many young people to learn about careers in the skilled trades in the building industry. And very simply for our listeners, if you haven't heard about Build My Future, I do talk about it a lot because I'm very fond of this. I mean, it is a one-day construction career fair for high school students where everything is interactive and hands-on. So there's no tabling, there's no picking up brochures. Every one of those students gets a chance to swing a hammer, turn a screw, get in and manipulate a digger machine and lay wallpaper. I mean, just you think about it. And I think one of the best comments I heard was the first year we did it. And this young lady, and she's actually on one of the interviews. If you go to the Build My Future website and watch some of the videos, she said, I had no idea there were so many things to do in the building industry. I just always thought it was swinging a hammer. And that's, I think, a pretty common misconception.
Yeah, well, that's what's so neat about the Build My Future event is it starts to remove a little bit of the stigmata that's around the construction trades as being mundane labor work. And actually, there are interesting hands-on and
lots,
everything from marketing to sales to administrative to the production side to manufacturing that folks have access to. And when I say folks, these particularly these high school children that were in Build My Future, that can provide a great living above the national average, but also genuinely give you fulfillment without a huge student debt load.
And you can see the results. I think that's what's so cool. I've really worked a lot of jobs in my lifetime that had very long lasting projects so that I took a long time to see the results of my work. And when you're in a building trade or industry, a lot of times you can literally watch the progress of your work, which is very rewarding. And so Build My Future has been a great entryway to this. I am over the moon excited that we have been able to bring this project to Oklahoma City. We're going on our third live one this year in 2022, and it's grown rapidly over the 3 years that we've done it.
100% growth over last year. Is rapid is a short, like that's modest for you to say it grew rapidly. No, it just doubled.
It was kind of an moment for a moment. We're like, wow, that was a lot of growth, but we're dealing with it. And the more high school students we can get to see the possibilities, the more they can go into the career techs and get trained, and the more that they can go find apprenticeships and start working.
Mhm.
Now, the caveat with high schools, and by the way, since this is Careers in Construction Month in October,
Oh, I
we love
forgot
that we
about
get to do it in October, right? Because
Mhm.
it is Careers in
I
Construction
forgot
Month.
about that.
Yep.
Mhm.
So, but one of the things I've learned is I've been invited to more forums and more events and to talk with more people about this. It has gained us a seat at a lot of new tables, which has been really amazing. We've been told a lot of times that this is amazing, but we need to go younger, because they pick kind of a track to follow during high school, and they pick that track in 8th grade. And this is where you come in.
Yeah. And it's funny, I didn't even know that existed until you came in. Yeah. So a group of other business owners, like-minded construction business owners, said, yeah, we should do a week-long camp for kids. And our target was originally high school students. And we can do a free camp, just allowing them to get exposed to the idea of, hey, these are the different things that we can do in the trades. Not trying to force them in that direction, just give them the opportunity to learn about it.
Right. And a week is a heck of a lot better
Yeah.
than a few hours to really see if you like something.
And this is the part where I get to say we had a lot of ideas and it was an absolute train wreck.
It was not.
Well, we had good intentions. And then, we got a lot of support from really a grassroots movement. But then that's when Marla came in and said, yeah, you guys are kind of doing this a little wrong.
I didn't say that.
No, that's okay. You said it in your nice Marla way. But then after we got to know each other a little bit more, get a glass of wine in Marla, she'll tell you exactly what you're doing wrong. But
That there was a lot we had learned from Build My Future that
Oh,
I
yeah.
was really glad we could bring to the table with the camp.
yeah, and I'm super thankful for that. And to lead into that, the event was essentially described as Construct My Future.
Yep.
And it, through some advice, rather than focusing on high school students, is focusing on 7th and 8th graders. And the amount of engagement we got out of 7th and 8th graders
Crazy.
exceeded my expectations so much. They were so engaged, found some of the most mundane things so neat.
Yeah.
It was really neat. And sorry, I'm getting into the event.
Oh, no, please. The
When-
stories were great.
When you have a child that would much rather weld and braze a pipe over a VR exercise, and not just one student, many students,
Oh, yeah.
it's like, okay, wait a minute, we got to get more involved with this. So, but what I really liked about it, and with your strength and organization and experience from Build My Future, is we were able to take a little over 50 students and engage them in trades such as HVAC, plumbing, everything down to painting and heavy equipment. They got to visit commercial job sites that, due to some post-enrollment surveys, that most of those kids, and pardon me, I've forgotten the percentage, but I want to say it was over 80% of the kids say, we want to come back to
Yeah.
this.
No, we had a very high interest.
Yeah.
And our challenge is that we want to get this out to new students next year, but we also want to honor our repeat attendees because they're our
Yeah.
best salespeople.
Yeah. Well, and actually some of them are really smart.
Yeah.
and I hate to say it, like I'm thinking when that individual's 18, I'm not going to wait for the college degree. I'd love to have them in my company.
Yes.
As well as the other vendors saw that value
Yes.
too. But after going through this entire event, it showed me that many of these children are, number one, they're much smarter than I think we give them credit for.
I totally agree.
And that there's more girls interested
Yep.
than we thought. And then lastly is the parents are now starting to see, oh, wait, this is something my child likes.
Yeah.
And maybe we should talk about exploring this aspect.
Yeah.
Even the fact that they got ICAP credit, that really got the parents' attention.
That got them very excited. How they're going to exactly apply that will leave up to the parents and the teachers, but we
Mhm.
offered that opportunity. And ICAP is for those of you who aren't familiar with that term, is an independent career, I think, assessment program, but it is a program in the state of Oklahoma where the students have actually a career exploration plan that takes them through high school.
Yeah.
So this was a way for them to get some introductory experience prior to starting high school. But, there's two things that I think that happened with Construct My Future Camp that were, I think, very instrumental and I think probably very pivotal in our success. One was that we asked the parents to sign up
Oh, I
the
remember
students. And we kept the parents very involved. I mean, you personally, many of us talked personally with
Yeah.
many of the parents. And then the last day of camp, the parents got to come to this celebration luncheon and see what their kiddos had been doing. And I mean, we had to keep upping the numbers on lunch because more people were signing up. But the energy that was created in that celebration luncheon and the pride that those students showed, those student campers, was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and not just because we gave them a shirt, the things that they had built, the friendships that they had made. Yeah. And, I think that's where when we talk about this, Marla, we talk about a wicked problem, it's kind of birthed some wicked solutions in a way.
Absolutely.
Because number one, we did come out of that, I'm not going to say unscathed, I'm going to knock on wood. We actually came out looking really good and said, oh, wow, we can do this better. But I think we identified that the follow through and the follow up in talking about solutions is how do we continue this?
Right.
So the fact that we can next year do a little bit more refined camp that gets better results, which is, I'm really excited about the returning campers. That's going to make it even better, which means we have to expand our enrollment amount, but then possibly getting into the next year, having more than one camp. I think the ultimate vision is creating through Construct My Future and Build My Future. I want to say an ongoing continuing education program similar to an ROTC or a Scouts of America group that is just dedicated to the construction trades, to allow those children that really enjoyed what they discovered at either of these events, that they can go to either weekly or biweekly extracurricular activities, learn more about them, and even hopefully, if we can get assistance through either legislation or the licensing boards, that while they're doing this, these fun weekly extracurricular activities that they're gaining hours towards a specialty license trade or something of that nature. And we think that's if we can get there. It may take us years, but if we can get there.
Big aspirations.
Yeah. And then as employers, they would more than willing, much like when I pull a resume for an employee and I see that they're an Eagle Scout, I'm like, let's really consider this, even though they don't have the work experience. If we can create that like a Construct My Future certification, then those employers could be more likely to take on that even at an 18-year-old or even a paid 17-year-old intern level, depending on the work permit of the state that they're in and things like that. But there's back to that middle group. This is part of the solution making. And we hope that group as a pie chart divide, it gets wider. But yeah, I think as of right now, Construct My Future at the 7th and 8th grade level, and then passing them on to Build My Future as a recap in October has become such a good builder of, this ongoing idea that, hey, I think we should think about this as a family and meaning the parents and the child of deciding to go in. And I think that probably, I hate to say it, wicked problems. So it's another episode, but I think one advantage that we should look at is I think the parents that are still under crushing student loan debt that have these children, hopefully can be a voice to say, hey, this could be a better path that I took or that away from what I took. That'll be one of those edit out moments.
Just go back to the parents.
Yeah. So I figured that may be a good point for you. So, but I think one thing that we need to take away from this, and I'm not saying we could make another episode about crushing student loan debt.
Oh yeah, easily.
But I think one benefit here is now that the parents are involved, many of the parents of these children are probably sitting on a lot of student home debt, and hopefully through their wisdom can see the value in saying, hey, don't do what I did and take this different path that I think would be better. Kind of going back to my story of my father, which is funny. I ended up back in construction and actually have a fantastic lifestyle as a result of it. I still put in the hard hours and had to learn a lot of things, but we have a lot of employees that find fulfillment in our work and are prospering in life. And that varies not only to just swinging a hammer, but it's in results of knowing how to market a construction company, how to be a customer service representative for a construction company, how to design and sell services for a construction company, to managing all of those people, everything down to ordering materials. So there's just so many opportunities. And maybe that is an opportunity in understanding that the parents are seeing this other side of I took this path and it's not right. I regret my decisions, and hopefully they can course correct.
Well, and you're helping more people to understand all of the great possibilities in the industry and the skilled trades, especially the adults, the teachers, the counselors, the principals, the parents, the aunts, the uncles, is a big part of our mission with both of these programs. And when they see the students excited, that helps them to pay more attention. And I will, as we're wrapping up, I went to an advisory group meeting not a few weeks ago for a local career tech that was looking to bring back on a program in one of the skilled trades. And one of the things that they were doing that I thought was so fabulous is that they were building the program so that the credits that they acquired in the career tech could then be applied to another local university for an associate's, and or could go on to be applied for another university for a bachelor's.
Oh, nice.
So this tiered approach, that anything that you gained down here in this career tech program for a specific trade would then cascade up if you wanted to continue your education. And I've talked to a number of people that have put themselves through college by working in a trade, and now they have both skills.
Nice.
So there's a lot of ways to tackle this.
Yeah. Well, and on that note, there's still a need for the universities, and even in our industry, we still have to have our engineers and architects, and, our business science innovators. You know this from the green home space. But that's exciting to hear, because I didn't even know they're opening that back up. So
I'm real excited. I think it's going to open back up in the fall. So
good.
We will have, so Stirring the Pot is starting to, I feel like even if it's not directly helping, maybe it's indirectly helping.
We just got to figure out better ways to stir the pot, I guess.
I know, maybe a bigger spoon.
Yeah.
So if you had one thing to leave people with as far as this whole wicked problem of getting people into the skilled trades, especially our young people and the building industry, what would it be?
I think the one thing is just trying to keep an open mind, and specifically, around the world is full of opportunities. And I think by having a specialty that is useful in every corner of this earth will give someone more value. And let's just pick, we started, I think, with plumbing. You can't find a plumber. My son has worked alongside of me and learned some carpentry skills over the years. And the good news is now he could pick up, and as he graduates, mom doesn't want him to leave yet, but when he's of age and he wants to leave, he can become a carpenter in Vancouver, Canada, or Paris, France. Pick the location in the world, and he can do those services anywhere and be paid good for it, because the labor shortage is so widespread. And all of that is just an access of trying to keep an open mind about the possibilities. And
for all people, we're seeing a lot more interest in women going into the skilled trades in the building industry. And we are, as a group, a demographic, very underrepresented, and we can help the labor shortage much more quickly than a 14-year-old can. So there's a lot of people that are reaching out in a lot of different ways. Well,
and because of the diversity of all these different trades, we find that we have several women employees in our company in multiple facets, not just the administrative side. But we find that a lot of women are actually better at the job, way better. And I would even say this, even in my own company, my wife and I own our company, but she is the CEO of the company, which shows, and by the way, she has a degree in a totally different subject. Doesn't even translate.
But y'all are a good team.
But that you're right. And that's another wicked problem, is how do we change that perception? So.
And that was why I was so excited to start all this process with professional women in building, because this can be part of the solution as well. So, well, I thank you very much for your time today, and more so for your partnership. And I love that we get to work together on solving even just our little bitty teeny tiny piece of this problem. And I'm excited to see where this goes, because
I'm excited for the update episode 3 years from now to say, hey, when this was this tiny little thing, this is where we took it. We hopefully it can be more well known.
It's fun to dream a little bit about what that might look like.
Well, thank you, Marla, for having me.
Well, I
thank you to
appreciate it.
listeners. And if you want to look up more information on these programs, I know Construct My Future is constructmyfutureok.org.
And Build My Future is buildmyfutureokc.com. And you can also go to the master Build My Future site, which is buildmyfuture.net. And that actually has a lot of the information from the Springfield group that started this whole thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Including a list of all the Build My Futures.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so we can donate and support and get behind this cause.
Right. And I'll put some resources in the show note too on workforce development and careers in construction month. So if y'all are interested in seeing a little bit more, you can poke around and find out some other things that might help you in your own endeavors as you're working on things, maybe in your own location as well.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you're inspired, by all means, copy us and recreate it in your own little corner of the market. So,
and you know how to reach me, through all the normal channels and podcast land and internet and all that good stuff. So we can gladly answer questions and hopefully get you connected to the resources that can help.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Marla.
Well, thank you. And everybody, thank you for listening and have a wonderful October and Careers in Construction Month.
That wraps this episode of the Everyday Green Home Podcast. Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Want more? Join the Love Your Everyday Green Home private Facebook group for more resources and behind-the-scenes insights. And remember that living a little better and greener is easier than you think.